thinking of renting in Mexico, short or long term, these are the things that you need to know or ask before doing so. Bienvenidos, amigos, and welcome back to another episode of More Life Diaries. And today we have a list for you guys of things you should know or ask before you rent here in Puerto Vallarta or Mexico in general. Most of these things do apply to Mexico as a whole. This list comes from the Mexico Relocation Guide, a very helpful guide if it is your first time moving here, or if you want to be guided through the process. If you find it very difficult to search for information online, the Mexico Relocation Guide is for you. We have an affiliate link down below. At the very least, guys, go sign up to their newsletter. The newsletter is amazing. Mariana always puts them together very well and regularly, and this comes directly from there. So there is amazing information in their newsletter.
And the newsletter is absolutely free.
Before we get started, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, please. It helps us greatly. We're trying to make it to 5K, and drop any other additional tips or tricks that you may have to let everyone else know in the comments section down below. So let's get right into it. Location. We often talk about the different type of neighborhoods here in PV. They're all very different. They're all very distinct. They have their own charm. So it's really important to find out the specific about the location that you're looking in. And again, if you're here for a short term, you might want to be in the mix of things. You might want to be in Centro or Zona Romantica or Cinco de Diciembre. But a lot of people that decide to stay here for a longer stay want typically something a little bit more quiet. And that's where it's really important, guys, to get to know the different neighborhoods here in PV.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when you first come, you're like, I want to be near the beach. I want to be where things are, where there's, good restaurants and whatnot. There's a lot of beaches, a lot of good restaurants. You don't necessarily have to be in, the central area, Zona Romantica, Cinco de Diciembre. And as well as those places can be very hilly, which we see a lot of complaints about, and noisy. So yeah, definitely do your research. There's neighborhoods for everyone. And
again, beyond the neighborhood, like Kathleen mentioned, just the specifics of the apartment is very important. Sometimes there's a lot of traffic outside. Sometimes there's a restaurant playing banda music right beside. Shout out to Gabby's. So really get to know the neighborhoods before you commit to a place. That's our number one recommendation, guys.
If you go to any place here in the morning, it's probably gonna be quiet. So you want to check it out in the afternoon. You want to check it out in the evening and the weekends. You want to be in that area and see before you sign anything, just so you understand what the noise level might be like on a particular day or time.
Next up, before renting, make sure to know what is included in the rent. Now, this is something that we often had to ask because it was unclear. Is there electricity? Is there gas? Is there water? We had to ask that basically every single time because it changes every single time.
Yeah. I think in Toronto, it's a straightforward utilities included, yes or no. And does that include internet? Here, it can be a bit different. Sometimes water is included, sometimes it isn't. Electricity, yes. Electricity generally is not included. If they have solar panels and the electricity isn't included, then you might, that's like a bonus, right? Because you're probably not going to use that electricity bill very much. But knowing the details of what's included is very important.
Condo fees or fees in general for people that live in cotos, you need to make sure that is included or not. Typically, condos will be included in the rent. We've rarely seen that the renters were also covering condo fees. However, in cotos, we've seen it pretty frequently where the renters do cover those fees. Internet speed. I'll show you guys on the screen right now how to test the internet speed. If you can get on the Wi-Fi and test the internet, make sure that it works for you. Because for us, for example, we need to upload a lot to YouTube and we need to work online. So we need a certain level of internet download and upload speed. And that is very, very different depending on even what street you're on. Mm-hmm. So make sure if you're going to visit a place that you are testing the internet, because some people have had just very poor internet speed and it's affected their work and they had to break their lease, move elsewhere. You get penalized for that. So testing the internet speed, especially if you do work from home or need to upload stuff online, is beyond important.
And just to add to that, because you might think, well, whatever, if their internet doesn't work, I'll just get another internet. Certain neighborhoods are covered by certain internet providers. We found that out in our last place. We couldn't get the initial one that we wanted,
like fiber optic through the main company here.
It was literally just our little block.
Like, you guys know neighbors, yes.
Yeah, that couldn't get that type. So, that's something to ask. Maybe if you can ask the neighbors or whatever, it is worth doing a little bit of research on that.
Another important one to ask and find out is if there is a TINACO at the residence or that services your specific apartment.
Yes, so what is a TINACO?
A TINACO is a water reserve. So above everyone's houses, basically, you'll see the big water reserve, the water tank. And we found out, that was very useful during the last hurricane, because we were running off that for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. So again, whenever there's a hurricane or the services are shut off, the TINACO is a lifesaver. If for some reason your place does not have one, there's no water running.
Yes.
So get familiar with the lakes.
Good to ask. Good to ask if they fill it regularly, because I guess a truck comes around and fills the TINACOs. There's no way to test it. I guess if it's not high enough, it doesn't really work very well because it's really running on gravity.
So it could be low pressure, high pressure, depending on
the placement of the TINACO.
Yeah. And just to segue, the water pressure in your apartment, just in general, not with a TINACO, test the water pressure. Look if the sinks, have adequate water pressure. Definitely look if the shower has enough water pressure for you, because again, that is very different depending on the apartment. We've gone to some apartments that were absolutely beautiful, but you turn on the shower and it was a trickle, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to roll the dice.
And the agent was like, oh, maybe the water's not on. And we're like, oof.
Yeah.
You need to know.
You need to know. I'd rather not find out after I sign. Yeah. So yeah, this water pressure isn't doing it for us. So definitely test the water pressure wherever you're going every single time, and in different faucets or the shower, the bathrooms, etc. Leading into the hot water. So make sure that when there is hot water in the apartment, and make sure that all the faucets and especially the shower again does have hot water. I think that sometimes the hot water is very little or there's no hot water. And again, if you don't ask, you don't know. And if you ask and they tell you, then check it, because again, you want to make sure that the temperature of the water, especially when you're showering, you're not trying to take a cold plunge every single day. So that's definitely something that's really important to find out and test for yourself. Washer and dryer. The main question, is there a washer and a dryer? And then the second question you want to know, is it shared? Is there one in the unit?
How many units are in the building and sharing it?
So for us here, we live in a 6-unit kind of apartment building. We share one washer and one dryer, which at first was a little bit concerning because we have 2 kids. They go through many outfit changes per day. So we would have much preferred to have our own washer dryer. However, it's never been an issue for us. Whenever we want to go up and use it, it's most of the time free, or we just have to wait for like the person's load to finish and load ours. So here specifically, there's an excellent system. again, everyone knows each other. Everyone's very friendly with each other. So it's not really an issue. But if you live in a bigger apartment building and you have to go all the way to, you know, the last floor to do your washing and drying, that could be more problematic depending on if it's an issue for you. I know we wouldn't like that.
They're usually lavanderias, like washing laundromats. Most neighborhoods have a few. If that's your preference, like, I mean, it is worth it. We've tried that a few times in our old place.
Yeah.
And yeah, they wash and dry and fold all of your stuff.
Yeah.
For, you know,
and
$1 a kilo or something like that.
We had a washer dryer at our old place, and certain things we would just bring to the lavanderia just to get washed there. But again, they do a really good job. If you don't have a washer dryer, you don't mind bringing it every now and then to get washed, then yeah, that's definitely an option for you. Very important, guys. Hold on. Very important, guys. Air conditioning. If you don't mind going without air conditioning, then it's not an issue. Just make sure that you know what summers are like here along the coast, because it gets steamy, very hot, very humid. So make sure to know what your tolerance level is for heat. This is again specific to very humid regions along the Pacific coast, but sometimes there's air conditioning in the bedrooms and not in the living room. That's our current situation here, but we have a fairly good airflow into living room area when we do open up the windows, so we don't foresee it being an issue in the summer. But we thought that we could go without air conditioning at our old place, and it just ran ridiculously hot. It was kind of open concept with the outside. Beautiful place, but an absolute sauna. So what we had to do, we had one air conditioning in the kids' bedroom. We moved most of our furniture in that bedroom during the summertime so we could work somewhat comfortably and watch TV. So again, guys, just know what your heat tolerance is if it's a factor where you're moving. And
if you're curious about how hot it gets here and how hot that apartment was, you can go back into our podcast from last year and see Mark's shirt.
Bienvenidos, amigos, and welcome back to another episode of the More Life Diaries podcast.
Coming to you from super hot and humid Puerto Vallarta.
Que calor, oh, oh. So ridiculously hot. We have right now 2 ACs, one in each bedroom, which is perfect for us. We can run it. We very rarely need to use it. But again, the living room, we have the fans and stuff like that. So another one on the list here with air conditioning is heating. And that's not specific to PV, obviously, but some places inland get fairly cold during the winter time. So heating, if it's where you're moving, it gets pretty cold. Make sure that there is heating, because the insulation of the houses here are not the same as back home. When we lived in Chile, it was very similar builds to here, and in the winter time it would get us cold inside as it was outside.
We chuckled at the thought of people thinking 8 degrees Celsius was cold.
Yeah, but when it's 8 inside your house and you're trying to chill
and it's all day,
yeah, you're like, this is not good. So again, heating if you are in a colder region during the winter time. Some rentals also offer cleaning services. So that's an important one to find out. Is there a cleaning service? Are you the one that's paying for it, or is it covered again under the HOA? So just find out if your specific unit that you're renting does have a cleaning lady that comes once a week. I'm sure you can decline if you don't want anyone to come over, but again, it's something that is fairly common in more higher end type of places. A regular cleaning lady, some people find it amazing, some people dislike it, so that's another thing just to consider before renting. Repairs. We've definitely visited some places that needed repairs done. Often they tell you, yeah, all the repairs will be done before you move in. Now, what you want to make sure is that you're not moving in and then they're doing the repairs, because those can sometimes be very lengthy. So make sure that when you do visit a place, that you're walking around and seeing, if there's potentially anything that will need to be repaired, and make sure that under contract that it will be done before you move in. Also, one of the previous places we lived often needed repairs done. So nothing that was obvious to us when we first moved in, but then every couple of weeks, something was falling apart. So just kind of have a look around and see if there's anything that, would need regular kind of maintenance or repairing. Older type of furniture or an older build might need more frequent repair services.
And importantly, make sure that that's included in your contract, that the landlord is taking care of that. That's not something that you need to pay in addition to, or that all repairs will be taken care of by the landlord. I mean, obviously repairs that you didn't break something where it's just like wear and tear or whatever. Again, something else to look for is old appliances and these types of things. Again, we'll need probably more servicing. We had that in our old place. I find here in Mexico that the tendency is to not replace, it is to fix, which is good. But and that factors into some other things that we'll be getting to, but also, of course, the need to maintain and repair those appliances.
Fianza de arrendamiento, so the deposit. It is pretty standard here in PV to give 1 month's deposit. So at the signing of the contract, you're going to give the first month, the last month, and a full month deposit. I've sometimes heard of half a month deposit, but more frequently 1 full month. So be ready to spend basically 3 months up front for your rental, which is a lot. It surprised us the first time. We did not expect the deposit to be that high. But in a place like PV where people kind of just rent and leave, they go back to their country without really adequate notice. They've left, the landlords in bad positions before. So it's just kind of to cover their end as well. However, we have heard in some cases that it's very difficult to get your deposit back.
Many cases.
So that's definitely something that you need to talk to your potential landlord with. Just have that conversation up front, so it's not anything that's surprising. Things could change.
And also to note that all that payment is generally in cash.
Yes.
Very few landlords will take a transfer of money, a bank transfer, or anything. So
yeah, it does depend. If your landlord lives out of town, typically they prefer bank transfers. If they're local, typically they'll prefer cash. So that will be difficult to get in cash because you typically can't take that much money out at once. So just plan ahead. If you're looking to sign the contract for X date, plan, multiple visits to
the bank. Or you can call your bank and have them change the limit of how much you can take out per day.
Are pets allowed or are pets not allowed? A lot of people come here with pets. It's a very common thing. And a lot of landlords do not want pets in their unit because of, the potential of causing damages to the furniture, to the unit, the shedding of the pet's hair, those types of things. So make sure before you commit to anything, if you do have a pet, that they accept pets. If you have any allergies, make sure that there were no pets previously in the unit, because that could definitely flare up your allergies. I know Kathleen's allergic to cats, so even if there was a cat living here prior, it gets into the vents, it gets into the...
And if you're buying or you're renting furnished, it's going to be on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much like an international type of rule. But also to say that a lot of listings will say no pets. But if you contact them and ask them, you might be able to get them to change their mind. If it's like depending on the size of the animal, the type of animal, they might let it slide just to get a renter. So don't be discouraged if you have a pet and you keep seeing all these postings with no pet. Just if you like a place, ask.
Never rent sight unseen. Make sure that you or a trusted person goes and sees the apartment before you're renting, for all of the factors that we just mentioned, it is very important, guys, to go see the place, because some pictures look too good to be true, and sometimes they are, but also some places don't look as good. People are taking pictures with their phone and it's like out of focus. The pictures just aren't great sometimes, and the place could really check off most of the things on your list. So again, you could be surprised with places you wouldn't even consider. But just make sure, guys, check out the neighborhood, check out, what the situation is with the neighbors and the apartment. We've gone to many places that we loved the apartment on picture, and we got there, it wasn't great.
Or it wasn't the same apartment.
Or yes, that too. We got to the place that we loved the pictures, and we weren't a fan of the neighborhood or the hill situation. So there are so many factors that typically aren't in the description or that aren't in the pictures that you need to consider. So just make sure to go to the actual neighborhood. As Kathleen mentioned, during the visit, maybe at nighttime, maybe in the morning, just to see what the nighttime situation is. You could have like a restaurant that does make a lot of noise, and like that's part of the neighborhood. Just don't move there, basically. So never go sight unseen. If you're, international and you're looking to rent, go through a friend. And our next point is maybe go through a rental agent or a real estate agent that does rentals. There's some benefits to that. Like they'll really be able to answer most of these questions for you. They'll be able to go and show you the property over WhatsApp or FaceTime. And they're going to want to find the perfect place for you. The downside to going through an agent is most likely they won't show you everything that the market has to offer, because here a lot of people post listings privately. They don't go through an agent. So an agent doesn't have any money to make off private listings. So they won't show you that, even though it could check off all your boxes. So those are some pros and cons of going through an agent. Otherwise, have a friend, make a friend that's willing to go and do some work for you.
Another thing to mention is that in order for a contract to be legal here, it needs to be in Spanish. So just make sure that when you are signing your contract that it is in Spanish. Often you can get the translation next to it or accompanying it in English or whatever language you speak. If you have zero Spanish, like maybe have a friend who can kind of just look it over and make sure that they're both, everything's included in your translation, and everything is okay. But if there is no Spanish contract, I think it's not legally binding here. So just make sure for that. And also I wanted to add to the no pets allowed things in the postings. What is weird here is sometimes they have no kids allowed. Okay. Next tip, guys, this is by far the most important. If you only take one thing away from this video, please take this. Before you sign your contract, please ask to see a copy of the electricity bill. It's so important.
Very important. Very, very important. This one is personal to us, guys. So make sure to ask for the last electricity bill. Turn that bill around, look at the historical. What happens is if the previous person used a lot of electricity, it pushes you up to another tier, so you'll be paying more for your electricity. It'll show you how much it costs to live in that apartment. So very important to look at an electricity bill. Again, our last place, we had one AC in one of the bedrooms, had never used it, and our electricity bill was close to 4,000 pesos for 2 months, which is absolutely insane. We took it to Facebook to ask. They're like, neighbors might be used tapping into that electricity. So again, we obviously had talks with our landlord. It wasn't going to get resolved. So ultimately we decided to move, where in our new place here, we have 2 ACs, one in each bedroom. And
we use them from time to time.
Our last electricity bill was 500 pesos for 2 months. Maybe even less than that.
Yeah, don't be like, how much is electricity usually, and they'll just give you a number. Like we just got a number. They said 500. It's 4,000. So definitely just be like, do you mind if I see a copy of that bill, or send me a photo on WhatsApp, front and back, and that you actually know what you're looking at, what tier you're in, and you can kind of just take it from there if it seems crazy amount. Because yes, it could just be that the people living there use a lot of AC or a lot of electricity, but it also could be that it doesn't matter. It's always just going to be high.
So guys, these are the factors or questions to ask if you're looking to rent short or long term here in PV or Mexico. Really, really important things to consider and to look out for. So if you don't know, make sure to ask, because you don't want to find any of these out the hard way. We appreciate every single one of you tuning in today. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like the video and comment down below if we missed any tips. We'd love to know what your thoughts are or your experience. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. This is our journey. More Life Diaries. Peace.